Hello everyone, I'm Iris. Here's the final presentation for the course Psych 601. The book I chose for this presentation is Superforecasting, the Art and Science of Prediction by Tetlock and Gardner. Before diving into the book, I want to talk about 4 common things that I found in the book in our coursework. First, we've learned the importance of applying statistical thinking to practical real-world scenarios, from everyday choices like commuting decision plan we did at the beginning of the semester to larger predictions involving significant uncertainty. Our coursework and the book consistently emphasize a critical awareness of the limitations inherent in traditional statistical methods. Examples include our discussions about null hypothesis significant testing and standardized testing practices like the GRE, highlighting how relying solely on rigid statistical thresholds can misguide decisions. Moreover, we've seen repeatedly the value of contextual judgment and adaptability, whether evaluating complex scenarios like predicting the outcomes of elections or analyzing evolving situations such as the MH370 disappearance case. These examples demonstrate how robust forecasts and decisions require both careful statistical analysis and nuanced human judgment using Bayesian thinking. Finally, a significant thing for our discussions has been the balance between confidence and humility. We've discussed concepts like Tetlocks, foxes, and hedgehogs, reinforcing the importance of intellectual humility and the willingness to adapt our views when presented with new evidence. This balanced approach enables us to manage uncertainty more effectively and enhance our predictive accuracy. Okay, with these common things in mind, let's jump into deeper discussion of the book itself. The book has a total of 12 chapters. I have put them into 4 major sections. The first section is Foundations of Superforecasting, which includes chapter 1 to 4. And the section 2 is Advanced Forecasting Techniques, having chapter 5 to 7. And section 3 is Forecasting as an Ongoing Process, which has chapter 8 to 10. And the final section is called Reflections and Future Directions, including the last 2 chapters. In this presentation, I will specifically dive into 2 sections. The first one includes chapter 5, Super Smart, and chapter 6, Super Quants, and the second one I will explore is chapter 9, Super Teens, and chapter 10, The Leader's Dilemma. In this section, we will explore a crucial question: how exactly do forecasting experts successfully blend human intuition with powerful analytical tools? We will dive into 2 key chapters, Super Smart and Super Quants, to see how combining structured judgment and data-driven models leads to forecasts that go far beyond simple guesswork. In chapter 5, Super Smart, the authors emphasize calibration as a foundational skill in accurate forecasting. Calibration involves assigning clear numerical probabilities to your predictions rather than relying on vague terms. For instance, stating there's a 75% chance provides greater clarity than merely saying something will probably happen. This explicit approach allows forecasters to measure precisely how accurate their judgments are. However, assigning probabilities is only the first step. Effectively updating these probabilities requires intellectual flexibility and adaptive thinking, which we will explore in the next slide. Before moving forward, it's important to understand why intelligence is relevant in forecasting. Tetlock and Gardner identify 2 types of intelligence: fluid intelligence, our ability to quickly recognize patterns and adapt our thinking, key for updating predictions; and crystalline intelligence, our accumulated knowledge that provide context for interpreting new data. However, the author stressed that intelligence alone does not guarantee superior forecast. What's crucial is applying intelligence thoughtfully with discipline, open-mindedness, and continuous practice. Now, let's see these ideas in action with a real-world example from the Good Judgment Project. The Good Judgment Project directly assesses how fluid and crystalline intelligence affect forecasting performance. Forecasters underwent rigorous testing, including puzzles like the one shown on the right, to measure their intellectual abilities. Results showed that regular forecasters were smarter than about 70% of the general public, and super forecasters even more so, surpassing 80%. Yet the author highlights that intelligence sets a useful foundation, but what's truly critical is how effectively individuals apply their intelligence, especially by consistently revising forecasts based on new evidence, which is also called Bayesian thinking as we learn in the course. An excellent example of strategically applying intelligence comes from Sandy Solomon, a scientist who, due to multiple sclerosis, shifted from his professional career into forecasting with the Good Judgment Project. Despite facing significant personal challenges, Sandy excelled by practicing disciplined forecasting, staying intellectually curious, and remaining exceptionally flexible. He continuously updated his prediction based on new evidence, which allowed him to achieve remarkable accuracy. This accuracy is quantified using the Breyer score, a measurement used in forecasting tournaments. The closer your predictions are to the actual outcomes, the lower your Breyer score. Sandy achieved an outstandingly low Breyer score of 0.19, placing him among the very best forecasters. Sandy's success demonstrates the author's key point. Effective forecasting depends less on sheer intelligence and more on the disciplined, adaptive use of that intelligence. An important concept also introduced in Chapter 5 is the method of Fermiizing, named after physicist Enrico Fermi. This approach involves breaking down complex, difficult-to-answer questions into smaller, more manageable parts. For instance, the book provides the classic example, how many piano tuners are in Chicago? Instead of guessing blindly, superforecasters dissect the problem into smaller pieces, such as the number of pianos in the city, how often each piano is tuned, how long tuning takes, and how many hours a tuner typically works. This structured reasoning method allows forecasters to clarify what is known, estimate what isn't, and arrive at surprisingly accurate answers even when direct data is limited. As we will see, Fermiizing is a key tool for forecasters seeking precision amid uncertainty. In Chapter 6, Superquants, Tetlock and Gardner addresses a common myth. Many people think superforecasters must be experts who use complicated math and fancy statistical models. However, the truth is quite different. Most superforecasters don't rely heavily on advanced math. Lionel Levine, a math professor at Cornell, is a great example. He deliberately avoids using complicated mathematics in his forecast. Instead, he believes strongly in careful thinking and balanced judgment. Levine's approach reminds us that successful forecasting isn't about mathematical tricks, it's really about clear thinking and thoughtful reasoning. Building on this idea, Tetlock and Gardner illustrate the real-world importance of nuanced judgment through the CIA's internal debate regarding Osama bin Laden's hiding location in Abbottabad, Pakistan, a scenario dramatized in the movie Zero Dark Thirty. In the film, the fictional CIA director grows frustrated when his analysts give uncertain estimates ranging between 60 and 80% about whether bin Laden is there. He is initially impressed when one analyst boldly claims she is 100% certain. The author uses this dramatic moment to highlight a common problem. People prefer clear absolute certainty over uncertainty and nuance, But real-world decisions, especially in intelligence and forecasting, rarely have clear-cut answers. They argue that accepting uncertainty and dealing comfortably with probabilities is crucial. Rejecting nuanced thinking in favor of artificial certainty can lead to dangerous overconfidence and poor decisions. Now is the time to dive into our second section on Chapter 9, Super Teams, and Chapter 10, The Leader's Dilemma. In this chapter, we will explore how effective teams and skilled leaders leverage collective intelligence to make superior forecasts and decisions, while carefully navigating challenges like groupthink. Let's see what makes some teams truly exceptional. In Chapter 9, Tetlock and Gardner compared two critical events from the Kennedy administration to illustrate the impact of team dynamics on decision-making outcomes. The Bay of Pigs invasion was marked by poor planning and unchallenged assumptions, resulting in severe strategic failure. However, just a year later, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the same advisor implemented important changes. They adopted practices of rigorous questioning, skepticism, and welcomed diverse viewpoints. This significant shift in their approach allowed them to handle the crisis effectively, avoiding nuclear escalation. This example powerfully demonstrates how fostering open-mindedness and structured debate within teams can dramatically enhance decision-making. Following the lessons from the Bay of Pigs, Kennedy explicitly addressed groupthink, a dangerous psychological phenomenon where groups prioritize agreement over critical thinking. To overcome this, Kennedy introduced precision questioning, encouraging team members to rigorously challenge assumptions and explore issues deeply rather than superficially agreeing. This created an environment of healthy skepticism and open dialogue, which is essential for making good decisions under pressure. Understanding this shift helps explain why structured skepticism and debate became so important to their success later on. Building on the importance of good debate and thoughtful questioning, the authors explain how these ideas work well in super teams. These teams are groups of skilled forecasters who collaborate to make predictions, and they often perform better than individual experts or prediction markets. The key to their success is creating a safe environment where team members feel comfortable expressing doubts and openly challenging each other's idea. However, the authors also remind us to be cautious. Teens must watch out for becoming too comfortable or letting overly confident voices dominate. Keeping a careful eye on how the team interacts helps ensure consistently better decisions. In Chapter 10, Tetlock and Gardner outline the leader's dilemma, highlighting that leaders face the challenge of maintaining accurate forecasts while acting decisively. Effective leaders typically strike a balance, leaning roughly 70% toward decisive actions while maintaining about 30% openness to questioning and adjustment. This quantitative balance helps leaders remain effective without becoming overly rigid or indecisive. Now, let's delve into how successful leaders like Helmut von Moltke effectively manage this balance. He famously stated, "No plan survives first contact with the enemies." This powerful quote sets the stage for understanding how leaders can best navigate uncertainty. The authors point out how multi-strategy, known as off-strategy, empowers lower-level leaders, enabling organizations to respond roughly 50% quicker to unforeseen circumstances. By delegating decision-making power downward, teams can enhance their adaptability and speed by as much as 40%, crucial for effective responses in rapidly changing environments. This approach contrasts sharply with traditional top-down leadership, where rigid orders often slow down response time when unexpected events occur. To effectively respond to uncertainty, the authors also highlight that leaders must balance confidence and intellectual humility. Approximately 60% confidence to drive action and 40% intellectual humility to stay open to feedback and improvement. Leaders such as Eisenhower and Patronus consistently demonstrate this balance. Research suggests that practicing intellectual humility can improve decision-making accuracy by around 25%. Therefore, balancing decisiveness, adaptability, and intellectual humility completes the picture of effective, resilient leadership. Throughout this book, the authors emphasize the value of blending careful analytical methods with critical human judgment. By precisely articulating uncertainties and probabilities, forecasters and leaders make significant better decisions. Equally important is the role of collective intelligence. Teams excel when they encourage active questioning, embrace diverse viewpoints, and practice intellectual humility. Ultimately, mastering forecasting is about balancing decisiveness with adaptability and confidence with humility, enabling consistent improvement in prediction accuracy and decision effectiveness. And that's all about my presentation. Thank you for taking the time to listen.